I'm Stuart Douglas. I'm the Managing Director for Pogo Charge, and we are building an ultra-rapid charging network in the UK. We're talking about customer experience today. That's going to be made up of a few topics, but we'll be looking at payment, accessibility, fleets, public charging, and brand.
Hi, I'm Tyrrell. I am owner, founder, CEO of ChargeSafe. We are a 5-star rating system looking at the customer experience, so safety, accessibility, and fleet application of public charging infrastructure. I'm here to have a chat with Stuart about how to improve customer experience and the things to look out for, I guess, over the next 5 years.
The customer experience is really important right now. I think we've got so many new EV drivers joining us every single month. We had record sales back in September this year. That first experience that they get at the charge point, the destination, essentially determines whether or not they're going to come back and use us as a network. So for us, it's really important. I think as an industry as a whole, it's really important to give people confidence to join the EV revolution. And ultimately, it's going to help adoption, it's going to help utilization, it's going to help people transition really seamlessly.
The thing is as well, with when somebody arrives at one of your chargers, that whole experience of understanding, do they plug in first? Do they initiate the payment first? How much are you going to pre-order on their card? Without even worrying about how they are going to find the charger, how they're going to park up at the charger. How do you guide your customer so that if they have just driven straight from the dealership and they're panicking about their 300 miles range and they think that they're not going to, be able to get home on time and they stop for a charge, how do you make sure that you've given them that confidence in their first charge?
Yeah, I think, look, there's a lot to consider in that process. I think from the outside, it looks really easy. You go up to a charge point and you plug in and there's not a lot to add. It's a commodity. But in the real world, it's a bit more complex than that. I mean, if you look at some of the sites that we've developed recently, galleries in Washington where we sponsored the EV Rally, we have signage all the way out on the main roundabouts to guide people through. We highlight where the hub is from a distance away so people can find it really easily. And then once they've parked in those bays, we've got all of the visual instruction, that visual aid to show them, pop your card here, select which charge point you want, take it out, insert it in the vehicle, and it gives them all of that real-time data. As they charge, they understand what's happening. I think that's really important. For early adopters who have been charging for 2-3 years, they probably don't need that now. It's really instinctive what to do, but I think for somebody who's new, it's really important, or for somebody who is using our network for the first time, it'd be really important.
Absolutely, and they definitely don't get that information from the dealership, do they? The dealership don't go, here are your keys, and by the way, all the different networks have slightly niche ways of creating this handshake between your vehicle and the charge point itself. So here are some helpful tips. So it's the ownership is then put on you as the charge point network operator to make sure that you're guiding your customer through that process in a really easy way.
Yeah, completely. And I think so many people will remember their first go at charging. I can remember it. You get the car, you drive somewhere, your battery's getting lower and lower, the range is reducing. You go, oh my God, I'm going to plug in and charge. You're expecting just to plug and kind of walk away, but the reality is slightly different. There is that confusion and consistency as well between different CPOs. And it's not to say that we're better or worse than anybody else, but the experience is slightly different, which is fine at the moment, but I think making sure that it's really clear and understood on the site is absolutely key. And then you've got lots of nuances around that as well. You've got weather, you've got lighting, so people are coming in at night time. The vehicle's different, absolutely, but coming through in the dark, in the rain, and you don't want to be faffing with really small instructions or having to Google something on your phone. So that the screen for us is a real USP at the moment.
If you strip it back to the very bare bones of the user experience as well, I know that Mel at ZapMap has been doing a lot of work, certainly in the background, as to the wording and the terminology we use around the strength of the chargers. There are so many different terms that get pulled around. We've got granny chargers, we've got trickle chargers, we've got slow, fast, rapid chargers. How do you let your customers know what kind of speeds they can expect, and in terms of how much time they're likely to be charging their vehicle at your site?
That's a really good question and a really fair point. So you can identify the speed, the potential speed is the right word to use, because what you get might be slightly different for varying reasons, but the potential speed will be listed on our website, it'll be listed on our app, it'll be listed on ZapMap. So you can see what the charger can deliver on there, and it's also available on site on the screen as well. The reality is, depending on the condition of your battery, the charging state, you might get something slightly different. That's displayed in real time as you take a charge on our network, and you can see the estimated charge time, and also give you the charge curve as well, so you learn a little bit about your vehicle while you're there.
Excellent. And without getting too technical about the hardware itself.
Don't do that.
Because, not everybody is a nerd who's in the industry, but you do have, I guess, the additional benefit of having a very close relationship with your hardware manufacturer.
We do.
So, do you know, are they having those conversations with the vehicle OEMs in terms of, if you're driving a Hyundai Kona versus a Porsche Taycan or a Tesla Model 3 or a Zoe, what kind of charging experience are you likely to have, so that those experiences can be more seamless on arrival at the site without the customer even knowing what's going to happen?
They do. They test each of the OEMs, and they engage each of the OEMs and provide feedback as well. So what we might see through different softwares or firmwares being released or patched, which happens all of the time, that the experience might change, might become slightly different based on the version of software. That's fed back in and worked through with the OEMs.
The things that we're looking for are really based wholly around the user experience. So if you think of ChargeSafe as like the umbrella term for your user experience, we will firstly look at the safety of the site. So what is the signage like when you're entering the site? So where you mentioned Washington, fantastic site. The signage is really clear, but also you can identify the site from a distance because it's so well lit, and you've got those fantastic whacking great big screens on every single charge point as well, so it's really hard to miss them. That's really critical to us for the user journey, because you want to be able to identify where the charges are, especially if you've gotten down to that turtle range mode on your vehicle, where you really are just desperately looking for a charge because your range is completely depleted, which is a situation I have found myself in before. So safety, signage, well lit, are the security cameras on site? These things are really critical to get right, because as a internal combustion engine driver, you're always in a floodlit forecourt which has a roof. It has an attendant, there's always a member of staff on site, there's always CCTV, and you don't really have to worry about your security in that kind of environment, but you are only there for about 5 minutes, whereas at Charger, you're going to be there for maybe 20 to 40 minutes on average. So that's the most critical thing, that we've put that right at the front, because if your user isn't feeling safe, they're not going to stop and use your charger. Next up is accessibility. This is really important because 1 in 6 people in the UK is registered as disabled. There are currently, I think it's 700,000 people on the Motability Operations Scheme. So those 700,000 people will be amongst the first to go electric, because with the 2030 ban coming into play, we've got a situation where when their leases come up, 2030 to 2033, those 700,000 users will be in an electric vehicle. And right now, they don't have much choice when it comes to where they're going to charge their vehicle. Thirdly, we look at fleet applications. So like commercial vehicle use, vans are going electric, and they're doing so at quite a rapid speed. We want to make sure that those bays are going to be wide and deep enough so that a van can comfortably reverse in, has a turning circle so that they can exit the site nice and easily, and so that the van driver can feel comfortable being able to charge when he's on his lunch break, or even if he has to charge within his work time. Does his employer feel confident that they're getting the best efficiency from that worker? There's so many things that come into it when it comes to fleet application for your charging site. And then we've got the lorries. The lorries are coming, so electric HGVs. For me, knowing that lorry drivers also have that safe and secure charging experience where they know they can take their respite break, whilst they're charging their HGV is really important, and that is critical for the whole of the UK's infrastructure. Our food deliveries, so much goes into the lorry drivers of the UK, so that's really important. And right now we stick them in a car park beyond the normal car park. So when we talk about that darkest corner of the car park where we find the charging infrastructure, well, the lorry drivers are in a car park behind that, so they've got it so much worse right now. So we're looking forward to a bit of that too. And affordability. So if you've got a pre-authorization policy of £85, you can be guaranteed that ChargeSafe will be coming after you, because it is unacceptable. Nobody's going to spend £85 getting from 0 to 100%. So why are you pre-authorizing that amount? It's not okay. So we look at holistically the entire user experience, all the way up until the customer service element as well. So if a user has an issue on site, who are they calling? If they're deaf, are they able to chat to somebody through a text or on screen on the charge points themselves? So we look at the whole thing.
Wow, a lot going on.
A lot going on.
What's the difference between what you do with ChargeSafe, Kate, and the PAS guidance?
Okay, so PAS 1899 was a standard that was brought out by the British Standards Institute as a way to fast track some guidance to the industry, because it was evolving so rapidly, no pun intended. All these chargers were going into the ground and there was no guidance on how sites could be made accessible. So what I didn't realise when I launched ChargeSafe was that BSI had already begun working on this technical paper that was looking at the measurements and considerations that needed to be made. The PAS standard itself was funded by OZEV and Motability, the charity, and they funded so much of this work. It's a fantastic document, but it does leave some gaps, and it is a very technical document. So we've taken everything that PAS 1899 has built as a foundation, and then we've developed it out even further. So for the last 2.5 years, we have been applying that standard in real world situations. So we've been to thousands of charge sites to do our inspection in the last 2.5 years, and some of the measurements from PAS were contradictory. So I believe the payment terminal had to be between 850 millimeters and 1,000 millimeters in height from the ground, but the IET wiring regs said that it couldn't be lower than 250 millimeters in height from the ground. 250 millimeters difference, and wiring regs are going to take precedence over something that is an advisory, and therefore everybody was already set up to fail. So there's some interesting niche little measurements in there that we have used in our own creative license to apply what is actually realistically achievable here. What can we do? We've worked with some consultants who have a variety of disabilities. So one gentleman he's an amputee. He uses a crutch or a wheelchair at times, and he's been really great to work with, because we will take him out to a site and he will show us his own experience of how he would plug in his vehicle and what those challenges are, to help us plug in the gaps in our understanding of, well, actually we're missing this measure and we haven't addressed this with our criteria, but it's also not in the PAS. So we've squeeze those into our own inspection criteria to make sure that we're delivering that higher level of user experience rather than just a box ticking exercise. And then of course, there is other considerations to be made, such as the deaf community. They haven't been considered at all in the PAS document. So if you are deaf and you are having a problem with a charge point, there's usually a customer service telephone number on the box. Great. But you can't make that call, you can't communicate with someone to explain the problem that you're having, and you won't be able to hear the response. So what solutions have we implemented for the deaf community? And that's just one example of so many that we've come across in the last couple of years of working towards this. So PAS 1899, brilliant as a starting point. ChargeSafe have fleshed out all of the detail, and we're looking at that, fully integrated user experience. This is how you achieve really happy customers, and not just ticking some boxes to say that's done.
And what about the future? What will you look to introduce in the future
Crystal ball.
for you guys? I mean, it's been centered or born out of accessibility and safety, but what else will you look at, Kate?
So arguably ChargeSafe has got an expiry date, right? Because we focus so much on how to influence the infrastructure that's going into the ground today. We do reviews on the legacy infrastructure. When we first started, I think there was something like 40,000 units, and today there's 70,000 units. We have not done 30,000 inspections in the last 2.5 years. We've done considerably less, but still a decent amount. So we've got our work cut out for us. We can definitely continue riding that train for a little while, but it's not just the safety and accessibility that I'm interested in. Over the next 5 years, I'm predicting that we're going to see some consolidation across the charge point network operators. You know, much like mobile phone operators, they're going to end up being consumed by the networks that are performing better or have a little bit more money to splash around, the ones that are really committed to their user experience and not just shoving units into the ground and doing that whole land grab exercise. I think what ChargeSafe will become is more of a monitoring and compliance arm to, is this site safe, accessible, is it fleet appropriate, are they maintaining the site, is it electronically safe? So, you know, that we will be looking to work with a partner on that operations and maintenance piece moving forward. But actually the data that we're acquiring right now is going to become valuable as we see those acquisitions and mergers happening. So if you've got network A wanting to purchase network B, how do you make sure that network B is the most highest value it can be when going out to the market? Well, actually, the ChargeSafe data says that all their sites are over a 3.5 rating. Here's their areas for improvement. These are the sites we recommend be completely retrofit. This is how expensive it's likely to be. And these are the sites that are doing really well and have got high utilization rates, etc. So I think that data is going to become extremely valuable moving forward. We will continue to be an O&M tool for CPOs, but also we are looking at international market expansion. So we've definitely got a lot to focus on. I can see that ChargeSafe will be around for decades to come. Right now, my focus is on how do I make that job easier in future, and that's influencing right from the start, doing the accreditation program with networks like yourself, so Pogo, ChargeSafe accredited, meaning that you already have that tool in your kit to know what you need to deliver to ensure that you are up to a standard that's going to be easier to maintain for my team to come and visit your sites, knowing that you've probably already done the right thing.
Yeah.